On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, I've got some names in a hat. We're going to pull them out and talk about trade targets the Raptors may or may not be fits for before the deadline, all coming up. It's a stupid little game episode of the pod, baby.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, January the 9th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. As always, come be part of our listener community, which is great fun when the Toronto Raptors are winning basketball games, and Emmanuel quickly is shutting them haters up, baby. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're off and running here on a Friday edition of the show, and it's a stupid little game edition of the show, and it's a fun one. We're going to play a game we have played before that didn't have a fun, snappy name. It was just a game we played that didn't have a cool title. We're playing a game called Race Against the Duck. I have a bunch of names of potential Toronto Raptors trade targets submitted by both myself and you, the listeners. We're going to run through, and each of us on today's show, we'll get to the guest in a second, we'll have 90 seconds to tell us why or why not the Raptors should go after the specific trade target pulled out of the hat. Why is there a duck involved? Because the timer on my phone goes off with a loud duck sound. That's the alarm. So Race Against the Duck is on, and here to compete against the duck is our pal, Joe Wolfond. How the hell are you, my friend?
Couldn't be better, man. I'm so excited to be here for the quick, dumb game segment of the program. So
it's stupid little game, not quick dumb game. Thank you very much. Yes, we're going to work on getting stupid little game trademarked. I would do that if I was any good at doing admin. All right, Joe. Game is simple. Once again, bunch of names in a hat. We're going to roll through them. We each have 90 seconds to talk about each guy as they come up and whether or not we would like to see the Toronto Raptors pursue that guy. We can get into the nuts and bolts of, is it even possible money-wise and all of that stuff. I guess before we dive into the game itself, just a quick reset on where we are trade deadline-wise for your Toronto Raptors. Trae Young is off the board, not a Toronto Raptor. Thankfully, Anthony Davis still out there. Looks like he might be an Atlanta Hawk, just as the sort of next domino in that series of transactions. We'll see. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon. Maybe Anthony Davis is a Hawk by now. If he is, well, I guess, oh well, things get out of date sometimes. But Joe, has your stance on like what the Raptors should be doing going into the deadline changed at all as they have rounded into form a little bit here, gotten back on track after a rough December? RJ Barrett's back. Colin Murray-Boyles is playing like he's 7'4" as the backup center, starting in place of Jakob Poeltl. Maybe the needs have changed. Maybe they haven't. Obviously, there's reports out there about wanting to move Ochai Agbaji plus picks to duck the tax. That's a big thing we'll probably talk about today. Your overall sort of read on where the Raptors stand heading into the deadline about a month from now.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed too much from the last time we spoke when I basically argued for them adding guard help as opposed to big man help. And, one doesn't necessarily need to preclude the other. And obviously opportunity is going to be the thing that defines all of their moves, any of their moves, if any get made. So, if there's more opportunity to add a big man for a price that is reasonable than to do so with the guard, then they'll go in that direction and that'll be fine. And I think big picture, my feeling hasn't changed, which is that, to me, this season, I've said it before, is really about, like, what does all this look like when the games actually matter? Mm-hmm. And we're getting a lot of answers to that, right? Like, in kind of a mixed bag type of way, right? Some good, some bad, but I think we're getting important data points about a lot of these players individually and how they fit together. And, I think for me, this season, I don't want to say it's all gravy, but after the last couple of years, I think it's been really important to get those data points for the fan base, just to watch a team that is playing meaningful games, that is vying for, not only a playoff spot, but right now home court advantage. in the first round of the playoffs. And so I think what probably a lot of people are going to be looking for clarity about, like after the good vibes of this season wear off, where it's like, oh, wow, winning basketball again, the expectations are going to change, and that's when the rubber is going to meet the road, right? And then the fan base is going to be like, okay, what's next? Where are we going from here? And that's where I think the picture is very cloudy, right? I don't know, looking at this roster now, I don't know that I see a ton of long-term upward mobility necessarily, or even short-term upward mobility. So I think, if you are looking at the trade market, I would, if there's going to be a big splash, I would want it to be a move that clarifies that long-term picture a little bit more.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
That's
totally. All right, man. Well, let's jump on in then. It is time to play Race Against the Duck. I have the duck ready. 90 seconds on the clock. First name out of the hat. Again, these have been submitted by audience members, by myself, by just sort of dudes who have come up in discussion in the Discord with other people who I talk about basketball with. There's a whole bunch of names in here. We won't get to all of them. We'll probably do this again before the deadline. But the first name on the board, Domantas Sabonis. We're starting big here, Joe. Obviously, his time with the Kings seems like it may be coming to a close. He hasn't played very much this season, just 11 games of action, dealing with injury, and the Kings are obviously a total disaster show of a franchise. I'll put the times on the clock, 90 seconds. Tell me about Domantas Sabonis. Yay or nay if you're the Toronto Raptors? Don't get ducked.
I think probably a nay, but I'll make the case quickly for that type of a deal. Like I think getting to that salary is going to be the tricky thing, right? But if it comes along with getting off of the Pirtle contract, which it would have to, you can't have both of those guys on this team for the next couple of years making a combined $70+ million. So if the Yak trade goes out in that deal and you're able to aggregate salaries where it's like Ojai plus, I don't know, off the top of my head, to get there without touching any of the other core pieces, and there isn't much pick outlay involved, I can see a case for it because he does do a lot of things that could be helpful for this team offensively in terms of his screen setting, his ability to operate as kind of a high post hub. And, the Raptors aren't perfectly positioned to take advantage of that type of player. The fit with Scottie and, CMB and others is a little bit tenuous, but he is a wonderful screener, a good passer, a guy with great touch who can really finish. And I think that could go some way toward, providing some of the rim pressure that the Raptors have been missing, albeit maybe not in the way that people would expect them to address that issue. But I think just the salary fit, the positional fit, the skill set fit is very imperfect. And I think it would be tough to pull off in a way that would make the team better now and in the future.
Wow, you avoided getting ducked by 2 seconds. Congratulations. Well done. I am with you on sort of generally thinking the fit would be pretty tough. Part of me thinks maybe Scottie Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles are so good defensively that you could kind of compensate for the utter lack of rim protection Domantas Sabonis provides. Maybe there's a sort of unleashing of the offense a little bit even further by having just like a better elbow operator than Jakob Poeltl, kind of mixing things up. Sabonis has been a low volume 3-point shooter, but in the back part of his career has been like a pretty solid one. I think the offensive fit could certainly, if you squint, make some sense. I think the defensive fit's where I get concerned, and mostly it's just like the money of it all is where I get concerned. Sabonis makes $42.5 million this year, 45 next year, nearly 49 in 2027-28. And I'm just not sure that's what you want to be allocating your biggest salary slot to at this point in sort of the trajectory of the NBA and how things are going. That said, if it's a buy low type of situation, if you can get off the Poeltl deal, it's pretty tough with what Poeltl makes now to get to the money without it also including one of Barrett or Quickly. And then it would have to be like Sabonis plus Malik Monk for Poeltl and Quickly or something like that, which maybe that interests you. Maybe you're into that. Maybe Monk is a sort of facsimile enough of Quickly that you feel all right about it. But it just feels like a little too hefty a price point salary wise, not so much trade acquisition wise, for me to really think this one works for the Raptors over the next couple of years to sort of optimize the Scottie Barnes window. Although I will say, I think I'd prefer Domantas Sabonis to Anthony Davis. We might get to Anthony Davis a little bit later on in the show, and I have avoided getting ducked by 4 seconds. So we will come back to the side here, Joe, and get into a whole bunch more names, some small, maybe some more Sacramento Kings. We'll do that. There's probably some big names that'll come up as well. The Sabonis might be the biggest one we get to. We'll do all that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, and the wild card round is here in the NFL, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app, which means you can throw more juice on the bets that you already like to make instead of forcing yourself to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. And as I've said before, if you're a fan of a team in the playoffs in any sport, the best way to wager on sports is to do the emotional hedge. Throw some money on the team that is playing the team that you like to win, so that if your team loses, you get some money out of the deal at the very least. And if your team wins, oh, well, you lost some money, but your team won. That's real cool, and you can go forward that way. I've made a lot of money betting against the Toronto Maple Leafs in my time. Maybe you're feeling the same about the Buffalo Bills or another team that can never get over the hump in the postseason. Either way, visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Go check it out. Back at it here. We're playing Race Against the Duck with Joe Wolfon. Before we continue on, a reminder, the Locked On Raptors Every Dayer Club is available. You can jump on in, $5 a month, $50 for the year, gets you ad-free episodes of the show every single day. You also got access to a Locked On Discord with listeners across the network from across the world. That's a fun thing. And extra bonus perks, bonus content, things like that as well. Go to the link in the description to sign on up. And it supports me. If you like this show, if you've enjoyed getting it for free for 10 years, and you want to toss me a couple extra shekels, you can go and do it on the at the link in the description of the Everydayer Club. Thanks in advance for doing so. All right, let's continue on here, Joe. Lots of names in the hat. I'm gonna pull one out here as we continue Race Against the Duck, and the name I've pulled out here as I jumble up the names, do some drama, do some draft lottery theatrics. Here's a fun one: Scottie Pippen Jr. This is a guy, actually, I did not mean to pull this guy out. This was not engineered. This is a guy I texted you literally yesterday about as someone I'd like to see the Raptors go and pursue. I'll start off here again, Race Against the Duck, with my take on Scottie Pippen Jr. If the Toronto Raptors are going to trade for anybody who makes less money than Ochai Agbaji before the deadline and try to get someone in who's helpful in that deal, maybe you attach 2-3 second-round picks to Ochai to get it done, Scottie Pippen Jr. is the guy for me. He is the single best option for me if the Raptors are going to do the two things that I think they need to do the most, which is get another guard to help out and also duck the tax. And Scottie Pippen Jr. hasn't played this year. It's notable. He had a toe injury. He had like a 12-week prognosis when he got hurt in late October. We're right around that time now. He should be getting back on the floor at some point here. And over the last couple of years, he's been one of the single best backup guards in basketball. Very good three-point shooter, good floor operator, all the good stuff you want from a secondary guard. He wouldn't be like the new starter probably necessarily, although maybe I'm sure some people out there who don't like Emmanuel Quickley would say start Scottie Pippen Jr., but having him as an extra element when Jamal Shedd's offense isn't going, when you want to go two guards, whatever it is, I think Scottie Pippen Jr. would be a lovely addition to the team. He's also on the scam of a deal for the next couple of years. And the reason why the Grizzlies might be into something like this, they have a lot of guards already. They got John Morant. They've got Ty Jerome, who also hasn't played this year, but they just gave him a bunch of money. They seemingly draft good guards every single year because they're wizards at getting guys in the second round of the draft or in the first round, wherever they pick. And so maybe Scottie Pippen Jr. becomes available if you can sweeten it with a few second-round picks. I've beaten the duck by 1 second. Joe, counterpoints or just, agree with me fully about Scottie Pippen Jr. The floor is yours, Racing Against the Duck.
Agree with you fully about Scottie Pippen Jr. Love his game. He is kind of very Shed-like in a lot of ways, but better at a lot of those things than Shed is, frankly. Like, he's a much higher turnover guard, but a similar sort of attacking guard, but one who can really shoot the ball. He's at 40% from deep for his career and can be a really disruptive defender. Like, we're talking high steal rates, like over 2 steals per 36 minutes for his career. And can honestly like really pester ball handlers in a way that sort of belies his diminutive frame. And so I think, again, I've talked about this before, but I think the Raptors' 2 point guard looks have been really successful. And I would love to bring somebody in who could allow them to play those lineups more often without sacrificing too much defensively. I think Pippen would do that. I think he'd address a lot of what they need. I just don't know that the Grizzlies are going to be in any kind of rush to get off of him, considering what you said about his scam deal. He's making like $5 million in the 2 seasons after this one, when I think he's making like 2.2. So I don't know what it would take to pry him loose, but I got to imagine it's more than just Ochai and like a couple of seconds. But if that is moving Memphis, then 100% sign me up.
Yeah, and hey, maybe Ochai's not the guy you move. Maybe this is like a Grady Dick situation, and then you let Ochai walk in the summer, and you don't bring that money back, and that frees up your books a little bit while you've also moved off Grady Dick, who, you know, has shown some signs lately, but maybe isn't fully there. Oh, the duck is going off. We both got ducked. Anyway, Scottie Pippen Jr., go find a way to do it, please, because I'd be very into that. All right, next guy here, Joe, as we pull a name from the hat. It is, also a Memphis Grizzlies guy, Jock Landale. We might not need the full 90 seconds each to talk about Jock Landale. He's fine. I'll give you the floor, Joe. Start by telling me if you think the Raptors should go get Jock Landale, maybe as part of a multiplayer deal with Scottie Pippen Jr.
Yeah, if it was part of a multiplayer deal, I'd be maybe more amenable to it, but Landale sort of fits into... I think he's better than Nick Richards, but it's similar to what I talked about when the Nick Richards rumors were flying, which is like, I'm not into the idea of getting a big man just to get a big man. Like, even though there are downsides to, you know, running Mamu, running CMB out there at the 5, I would rather continue to do that than just add a, you know, sort of replacement level big just to... you know, fill that sort of need for size without actually adding a ton of upside. And, you know, again, Landale is fine. He's actually shooting the 3-ball quite well the last couple of years, albeit on very low volume. He's a decent finisher. I just, you know, the defense is underwhelming. I think he is like, again, basically a replacement level center. And I just don't see the point in adding somebody like that. I don't think it's moving the needle a ton, and I think what you've seen from Colin Murray-Boyles as a 5 over the last few games, at least for me, like I want to see more of that and see how much long-term viability there is for him at that position rather than just put a guy next to him that isn't going to move the needle a ton.
You beat the duck by 5 seconds. Well done. Yeah, for me, I'm in a pretty similar spot here as I was with the Nick Richards thing, as I have been with most of these backup bigs. Like, I don't know, if you had to just like handicap it and say Colin Murray-Boyles is the blank best guy at playing center in the NBA, what is he, like the 35th best guy at playing center in the NBA already? Like, he's better than most backup centers already based on what he's done. Yes, in limited run, small sample, all of that, but like what he's done has been bloody impressive. He's protecting the rim. He's an absolute rebound vacuum. I don't think you're doing much better than him if you're finding a backup big. And so, like, yeah, it's just got to be like such a high bar to clear for me. Maybe we'll get to some of those guys as we go through here. But
yeah, can I just say something quickly about that?
Yeah, go nuts. Yeah,
and I think it's important in talking about potential big man targets generally, or honestly just how you want to shape the team. Like where they've struggled with him at center is offensively. Like the defense with him at center has been unbelievable, and I think that totally jives with the eye test in terms of how switchable they are, how many turnovers they force, how physically they play, and the fact that, you know, with those suction cups for hands that he has, they've actually done, you know, I know they got kind of killed on the offensive glass last night, but they've done a pretty good job of cleaning the glass even when he's playing the 5. And to me, when you think about, you know, the offensive limitations, those things are things that ought to be addressed with... Sorry about the duck. Those are things that ought to be addressed with different types of additions.
This duck is not on me. You ducked me here.
I'm so sorry. But that I just felt like that was important to say, is that, like, I think typically when you think about playing small, you think about the limitations coming at the defensive end of the floor and the benefits coming at the offensive end of the floor. And it's sort of been the opposite for the Raptors. I think that's something we need to consider.
For sure. My Jock Landale takes have been interrupted by Joe,
I'm so sorry,
who went and ducked me. It's fine. I'm not mad about it at all. Let's get to another name, shall we? Here we go. Oh, another center. I don't think this guy is especially good, but Yves Missi from the New Orleans Pelicans, second-year guy, maybe already kind of in second draft mode. Derek Queen is there. I'll start on this one. Fine, I guess. I was never a huge Missi guy in that draft. I think he's very much more sort of athleticism and tools than actual basketball skill. And hey, maybe he can refine that stuff over time. I believe our pal Will Liu suggested like a Grady Dick for Yves Missi trade on his show recently. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to add a young, sprightly, bouncy big to the mix, maybe a bit of a lob threat going forward, someone who could help as a pick and roll operator or help quickly as a pick and roll operator when he's on the floor. But I'm just kind of nonplussed by Missi as a player in general. But if you're going for a backup big, someone with a little upside, that could be untapped, maybe I'm all right with that. So Missi, I would probably put ahead of a Jock Landale type or a Nick Richards type for sure, although I'm just kind of nonplussed by him as a player in general. I only needed a minute to talk about Yves Missi. You can go now and talk about Missi yourself. What you got?
I was going to give you like half of my 90 seconds to make up for ducking you on Landale because I don't have a ton to add. I like the idea of adding a younger center if they're going to add a center for the sake of, if they see some untapped upside there, then maybe that's a player that can, like I was talking about off the top, if you're gearing this move not just toward the present but toward the future as well, then you add somebody who can sort of grow with this core. I just don't know if Missi is that guy. I do think he's actually improved quite a bit defensively this season, which for a center in his second year is quite encouraging. So, that's, and maybe there's like a little bit more to his skill set than just the typical like screen and dive, rim running, rim protecting archetype. A little bit more, but not much more from what I've seen. So I wouldn't hate it, but I wouldn't be super excited about it either.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair way to put it. We'll come back and decide here, Joe. We'll probably get 3-4 more names pulled out of the hat before we wrap things up here. We will do that and continue Race Against the Duck coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Betterhelp. And look, we roll into the new year, new me, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes it isn't about reinventing yourself. It's just about having someone to talk to feel a little less weighed down by the daily rigors of the world. And I don't know if you've seen the world out there. It's pretty tough stuff. It's heavy. It's hard to navigate through. Therapy can help you understand what's been holding you back by giving you an outside perspective on your emotions, motivations, and relationships. And that is why BetterHelp can be such a helpful place to start. Their therapists are fully licensed and work under a strict code of conduct. They help match you with a therapist based on your needs and preferences, so you're not doing all that legwork on your own. And if the match isn't the right fit, you can switch to another therapist from their tailored recommendations anytime. BetterHelp has served over 5 million people with more than 30,000 therapists, and live sessions average 4.9 out of 5 ratings across 1.7 million client reviews. I'm a big advocate for going to therapy. Talk to someone. Have someone who can just be a sounding board for the things that are going on in your life. It's a very useful tool to just kind of understand yourself, understand your relationships that matter, how to nurture those relationships. Can't recommend it enough. And if you are in the market for therapy, BetterHelp can be the place you go and find it. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/NBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/NBA. Wrapping things up here, it's Race Against the Duck, the very cool, stupid little game we're playing here before the trade deadline. And we'll probably play it again because, boy, oh boy, we got a lot of names left in this hat that we're not going to get to today. But, Joe, let's get to another, hopefully someone a little more interesting than Jock Landale or Yves Missi. Here we go. Next one up here. Oh, this is a fun one. Chris Dunn of the LA Clippers, having a bit of a, Chris Dunny season, right? The Clippers have been not very good. He is someone who has kind of like sneakily become an okay low volume 3-point shooter over the years, despite kind of carrying the reputation of being a total non-shooter. Obviously, one of the better guard defenders in the entire league, has been pretty good for the Clippers throughout his run, maybe less so this year. 90 seconds on the clock here, Joe. Chris Dunn, you wanted guard help. Is this the right kind of guard help? Your turn.
Man, defensively, absolutely, that's the right kind of guard help. Having a point of attack defender of his caliber, a screen navigator, and over the top chaser of his caliber could really do wonders for this team's defense, which is already elite. And I think, one of the things they still do struggle with, as good as they've been defensively, is they do give up a lot of dribble penetration.
Sure.
The point of attack can still be kind of leaky. So, damn. In that sense, I would love to add him. I know the shooting numbers have trended way up. I'm looking now, he's shooting 38% from three this season, which is a career high, and he's doing it on career high volume as well. But he still doesn't get guarded. And that's the thing that would worry me, is adding another guy to this mix who doesn't get guarded on the perimeter. And even if he is able to knock down 38% of his threes, I just think that's a little bit damaging for an offense that's already in the mud.
Totally fair. Only needed a minute for that one. Thanks. I got my 30 seconds from Jock Landale back. Thank you. This is an interesting one for me because I'm not sure he's necessarily the type of offensive player they could use to help the guard issues we've talked about. But if it's going to be a thing where you got to find someone who makes the requisite amount less than Ochai Agbaji to duck the tax, you could probably not do a whole lot better than Chris Dunn. We talked about Scottie Pippen Jr. There's not that many guys, although my math is hurting my brain at the moment. The Raptors have to duck, I believe, $957,000 to get under the tax. And the difference between what Chris Dunn and Ochai Agbaji makes is close enough that I cannot do the mental math on the fly here. Chris Dunn
does that factor in the partial salary they paid out to Mo Bamba? I think
it does. Yes, it does. Yeah. And so it might not quite be enough. Chris Dunn makes $5.426 million with $400 at the end. And Ochai makes $6.38525. So someone smarter than me do the cap math. This might not actually get the Raptors under the tax, but if it does, I'm into it as just why not have a defensive demon out there replacing Ochai Agbaji, who's not really giving you a whole lot at the moment offensively anyway. Again, not the sexiest move. He is also under contract for next year. So if you're trying to clear up money to keep a guy like Mamu around, this doesn't really help you, but you could do worse if you're trying to duck the tax and also get a player back who could be helpful than Chris Dunn. I beat the duck by 2 seconds. Next one up here, Joe. We have got ourselves Day'Ron Sharpe, everyone's favorite backup center from the Brooklyn Nets, someone who I have been pretty nonplussed by as well, although he's certainly ahead of the Nick Richards, Jock Landale tier, I guess you could say. There's always the fawning over the backup center on the team that's bad that everyone's well, this guy will fix everything, that I don't quite always buy into, but I think you're a bit of a Day'Ron Sharpe head, if I recall. I'll give you the floor. Give me the lowdown. Are you into Day'Ron Sharpe at all?
I am into Day'Ron Sharpe. That dude just competes. And
Fair
he
enough.
is a monster offensive rebounder. And so I just think if you're looking at backup center options, to me, you do sort of want to zero in on specific skills, because you're not going to find somebody who covers all bases, because those guys aren't backup centers, they're starting centers. And so in the specialization bucket, offensive rebounding is something that's pretty important to me. And solid defensively, good finisher, not really elite at anything, I don't think, other than offensive rebounding. But if that's your elite standout skill and you're pretty good at a couple of other things, I don't know, that sort of moves me as somebody who can slot in, for 15 odd minutes a game and just get after it, make hustle plays, just make his presence felt, I think. And some of the other guys who have been mentioned, like a Landale, like a Nick Richards, are guys who are big, who don't necessarily impose their size upon a game. But I think Day'Ron Sharpe is one of those guys who you really feel his size when he's out there.
Fair enough. I will say this one, it does not fit the Ochai Agbaji duck the tax trade thing, because he makes basically the exact same amount as Ochai Agbaji, and so You're not getting that benefit if this is the thing you're trying to do. Everyone will say, just pay the tax. And, they could just do that. But also there are limitations to paying the tax multiple years, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to try to duck the tax. It seems pretty clear they're going to try to do that. That said, like if it's an Ochai plus another small salary, like a Mobo or something like that, to get Day'Ron Sharpe in the door, plus whatever picks it requires, you can go ahead and do that. I wonder what the sort of degree of interest in moving Day'Ron Sharpe would be if you're the Brooklyn Nets, if he's providing you solid backup minutes for a cheap amount of money. He's making 6.25 next year, then he's a UFA in 2027-28. Maybe they feel like they could get more for him closer to the expiration of his deal next year. Who's to say? But yeah, do I think I'd be thrilled about seeing Day'Ron Sharpe playing ahead of, say, Colin Murray-Boyles as the backup 5 full time? Not really. I'd like to see them go with those small looks a little more often, but as an extra tool in the tool chest, then yeah, sure. You can tell I'm very handy. The tool chest? Is that where tools are found?
Could be.
Yeah, but who knows? I don't think you know either. So yeah, totally fine. Might cost a little much to get it done, and it doesn't do the Ochai duck the tax thing. So I'm probably a soft no, even though it's not terrible. I beat the duck by 1 second. Do one more here. This is a good one I just pulled out. Dosunmu from the Chicago Bulls, who is also a free agent at the end of this season as well. Makes $7 million a year, so doesn't satisfy the duck the tax thing, but he's also good and is maybe one of the potentially better available guards out there. I give you 90 seconds here. Talk about Ayo.
Yeah, if you can get Ayo, I care a whole lot. I mean, I don't care anyway about ducking the tax. I understand there are implications there in terms of repeater penalties, and I understand why they want to duck it in this season when they don't have, championship aspirations. But Ayo Dosunmu is exactly the type of guy where you can add him to the team and make it better right now, but you're also adding somebody who I think makes a lot of sense with this roster long term.
Sure.
And that I just love that idea. I think he's a great fit. I think he brings a lot of what this team needs in the backcourt. Really good driver, good shooter, solid defender, just a really good all-around player. And I would be very jazzed if they could find a way to get him, without giving up too much. But he's, if they could put together the salaries plus a first-round pick, he's one of the guys out there who I would feel actually okay about giving up a first-round pick to get. I think he'd be worth it.
Yeah, they would have to re-sign him and not just let him walk after this year for sure to make a first-round pick worth it. But I don't know. If you do Grady plus Ochai and a first for Ayo Dosunmu with the intent to keep him around, it gets muddy with, are you paying RJ Barrett? You got the Pirtle deal, you got the Quickly deal. It's an expensive team for sure. But if you can duck the tax this year and figure it out in the summer, maybe it's worth it. I think probably Scottie Pippen Jr. is still my number one ideal trade target, but number two might just be Ayo Dosunmu. He'd be really damn good, and he seems to be kind of wasted on a Bulls team that is languishing being the Chicago Bulls. Joe, this was a ton of fun. We didn't get ducked too much, and when we did, it was because of you doing it. It was all your fault.
That was predictable, but
this is just a game I use to train you to speak in shorter little bursts. It's really
good. It's a good exercise for me, honestly.
Camp. Yeah.
Help me with concision, which I need.
Well, that was tons of fun. Joe, always a pleasure to have you on, buddy, and I'm sure we will pick the rest of the names out of this hat at some point between now and the trade deadline. Always a pleasure to have you on, buddy, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks' time. For you, the listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, all that good stuff. We'll be back again on Monday as we break down a game on Saturday against the Boston Celtics. That should be lots of fun. Or is it Friday against the Celtics? I don't know what days are. Yeah, and then they play the Sixers on Sunday, Monday, and a back-to-back. And so, yeah, 2 games we'll talk about Monday. That'll be a lot of fun, and we'll carry you off, hopefully, into another winning week of hoop for your local basketball team. Thanks so much. Discord, link in the description of the podcast. Sign up for the Everydayer Club, $5 a month, $50 for the year for ad-free episodes of the show, and very much appreciate all those of you who rock with the podcast, whoever it is you choose to. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.